Okay. Make sure that the stream's up. Okay, so it appears that we are good to go. Alright. So I'm coughing today, so if I cough excessively, please excuse it. So before I can start talking about Final Fantasy XII, I have to talk about Final Fantasy Tactics, because you can't really have one without the other. Okay, so it's 1996. Square has just released Final Fantasy VII. It's a phenomenal success for some reason. And RPGs are going off of the 2D plane and are going onto a 3D scale. Not true 3D, but 3D as well as you can get. So we have full motion video is a thing now. It was a thing during 32-bit, but that was more like Sega CD, and it was pretty much garbage. So PlayStation launches. Square decides to. Square at this point had a exclusive deal with Nintendo for Final Fantasy, but Nintendo refused to go to a CD-based console at the time, and the PlayStation went from being an add-on for the Super Nintendo to a console itself after Nintendo did some stupid business decisions and went with Panasonic instead of Sony for their console stuff. It had something to do with the rights to their IPs and bunch of like business jargon that nobody really gives a shit about. PlayStation launches with a decent amount of titles, Tekken and some other ones, and then Final Fantasy VII hits the floor, and it's a phenomenal success. Motion video, multiple discs, the whole shebang. On the side, we had a title that would come out called Final Fantasy Tactics. Was designed by the same team who created Ogre Tactics back for the Super Nintendo. Basically a strategy-based game, but Tactics was nothing short of a masterpiece. The game had compelling battle system. It was hard enough. The story was fantastic, and the writers legitimately cared. So Tactics happens. Tactics got like a really bad sequel for the Game Boy Advance that had nothing to do with the original game. I literally played hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of hours into Final Fantasy Tactics. I've beaten the game literally hundreds of times. It's great. I still play it to this day. Okay, so then we fast forward to PS2, and we get Final Fantasy XI, which was Final Fantasy's MMO. It started to become big like right around the EverQuest era, and then it didn't die out, but it started to lose steam once World of Warcraft hit the scene. Final Fantasy XII was initially designed. I can't remember who designed it. I want to say it's the same guy who did 8 and 9. And 8 was a fucking train wreck. That game was god awful. But we move forward, and now we have Final Fantasy X is a success on the PS2, and immediately at the same time that 10 was being developed, 12 started production. It lost the director halfway through, and the team that created Final Fantasy Tactics took over 12. So, the initial game was okay. The story is the same as it is in the remake. The story is good. It's good. It's like Tactics good. Not quite as good, but it's right there. I mean, it can roll with them. You know, if you like the story about Final Fantasy 12 or I'm sorry, Tactics, then you're gonna like 12 story. Period. It's just a lot of similarities and things of that nature. So, moving forward, they had a. Now, I'm gonna warn you guys right now. If you're gonna play this game and you don't want to be spoiled, stop watching, because I'm gonna have to spoil this review. I don't really have an option here. There's things that I have to talk about that have integral parts of the story that I have to explain. So if you're gonna play this game, don't watch. Leave. Alright, you've been warned. Okay, so we're going to go over the cookie cutter story, and then I can go into more about how the original versus the international version versus the Zodiac Age kind of takes place. Okay, so 12 was, in all intents and purposes, was a game that kind of like had some Disney inspiration as far as like Aladdin is concerned for like the first like hour, and then after that it's nothing like it. So this game is one of the few RPGs that really has nothing to do with the main character. Like the hero has like almost nothing to do with the game, and that is because the American side of Square wanted them to add a kid in because they thought that the original protagonist wasn't gonna be good for Western audiences, which is the character named Bosch. They were gonna have him be the main character, and then they just threw this other one in because they just were like, no. Okay. So the game is about predominantly it's about this kingdom called Damaska, and then an empire that takes them over. Very Star Wars-esque, very just tons of games I've done this. Final Fantasy 4 or 6 or 4 was like that. Final Fantasy 6 was like that. It's been done like a bajillion times. 7 was like that too. So there's an empire that take over. They manipulate wars. They stage. They find someone who looks just like Bosch and has him kill the king, and then they frame Bosch, and then they take over everything. It's this big explosive story, and it's really good for what it was. I mean, it's not Tactics, but it's right there. So in the original version, basically the way it works is you have a license board, and you get this thing called license points after you kill monsters. You take those license points and you learn tiles on this giant, like essentially giant checkerboard, and like you have to have the license to use certain things. Like if you want to use I don't know, like the spell Cure, you have to have the license for it. If you want to equip a certain weapon, you have to have that license for that weapon, with a few exceptions. And so you just go along this board. So essentially, at the end of the game, you had everybody could do everything, and it was boring. Like, I'm not gonna lie, end game was extremely dull. I had completed this game front to back, up to down, when it came out. I pre-ordered it. I went to the GameStop. I went to EB at the time, picked it up, I got the collector's edition steel case back, and this was like around the first time that you really saw that kind of stuff. And I played the shit out of this game. I probably spent like 200 hours in the original version of 12. With that being said, it was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. It was right in the middle. There's things I didn't realize about the game at the time. So then I went ahead and decided that I was going to, when this game was re-released, when the Zodiac Age was announced, I was like, all right, cool. It's the international version. So the international version, what it did is it broke up all the license boards into jobs, and there were 12 jobs. And in the international version, you could only pick like one job, and that was it. And that was your character. That's all you could do. So, like, if you pick Knight, you were going to get to use, like, swords and heavy armor and shields and stuff like that. You're going to be, like, a tankier guy. You're going to have high hit points, low magic resistance, da-da-da-da-da. If you were, like, a white mage, you'd get all the healing spells, obviously all the white magic, and then you would use, like, cloth armor and staffs and stuff. So they had them all broken down. And then they had something called trial mode, which is a 1 to 100, and you literally fight every single thing in the game. And if you beat the game if you beat the trial mode, which is extremely difficult, and I'll explain why in a minute, you'll unlock like a super hard mode for the game where you basically never level up. And I could not imagine playing this game in that kind of a setting. That must be unbelievably difficult. So that was the international version. That was the version we never seen in the States. That was a Japan only release. Now, if you could get over it being in Japanese, you could still play it because the PS1 was not region locked. Or PS2 rather, it wasn't region locked. So you could do that. You just bring it over and go to town. And then eventually people did bring it to the computer, and then people had mods to make it English if you want to play the international version. So fast forward to 2017, they announced that the Zodiac Age is coming, and it is basically the international version with a few tweaks. So I got to explain a little bit about the treasure chest system because it's totally different, and I've never seen it done since. And I'm like up and down about it. It's good and bad. So almost every treasure chest in every area has a percentage to not only spawn, but to contain different items. So you can sometimes, like, most of the time you'll get like some random like thing like a potion, but then other times like you have a small percentage of getting really rare stuff. And in the original version there was something, the best weapon in the game was called the Zodiac Spear, and it was in a treasure chest that had a like really low percentage of dropping. Well, I'm sorry, it's not the best weapon, but we'll get into that later. The best melee weapon. But if you got a different treasure chest earlier in the game, it would never spawn. So you had to be aware, like, oh, I can never grab that treasure chest because, and all the treasure chests had in it was like a potion or something stupid, because I would never be able to get the Zodiac Spear. This is definitely a strategy guide game, like 150%. Like, you had to have a strategy guide for this game. So, Zodiac Age got rid of the Zodiac. It added a couple weapons. It made it where the Zodiac Spear was in a different place altogether. It has trial mode, obviously. It has a job system, but they also made it where you could pick 2 jobs per character, and they lessened the difficulty a little bit. So it's one of those things where you could say either one. One thing that I liked about them being able to 2 jobs is you didn't feel like, oh, if I don't have, because like literally you can only pick half the jobs in the game because there's 12. You get 6 characters and there's 12 jobs. Fuck, I can only use half the license board. But having 2 jobs is still like a I don't know what to do scenario. You have to think about everything, and you have to literally think about how you're going to do endgame right in the beginning of the game, because you can never reselect jobs. Never. So, you know, it's one of those things. Now, there are these things called bazaars, and basically what you do is if you sell a merchant a certain number of items, it'll bring up another item in the bazaar, and you would buy it, and it'd have a package of whatever. And that's how you, that's how you would obtain all the strongest equipment in the game, was like through the bazaar and rare chest spawns. But in Zodiac Age, in trial mode, you can take the stuff you get in trial mode into the main game. So there's literally no reason to farm all these like super hard to get items to drop when you can just go in trial mode and steal them. So, you know, it is what it is. Plus, good and bad. I have been having a blast playing Final Fantasy 12 again, more so than I can say that I had my first time playing, because I have a deeper understanding of how the story works. The story is so good. The game is a ton of fun. And there's just so much to do. Like, the end game has so much stuff. You have all these Espers, you have these super powerful bosses, and then you have this, they have this thing called like a creature hunt or something like that, and basically you just go through, and some of these monsters that you fight are fucking brutal as fuck. I mean, they're just like super hard. I mean, oh my god. So you literally have to have the best. You have to be max level. You have to have the best equipment in the game. You have to be aware of different conditions. Like some of these fights, you can't use the attack function, so you have to use magic or abilities, and it's just a lot of fun. So you have the story is mainly about Bosch and Ash, and Ash is the princess that they told everyone that was dead that wasn't actually dead. So lo and behold, like, you know, there's this whole struggle. And again, it's one of those games that has a female in it, but this female isn't like, oh my god, I wish to be in love. None of that bullshit. None of that, like, cliched fantasy garbage that we see in all these other games. And Tactics was the same way. It had a female. It was mainly about a girl, but, like, the girl wasn't trying to find love and shit. She was trying to get back her kingdom and all this stuff. So it was 12 is a great one. Like, makes 10 look like garbage that you'd wipe your ass with. It's deep. It's not super hard. It's not super easy. It's right in the middle. You got to have a knowledge of what you're doing for the most part, but you know, it's definitely doable. And the battle system is real time. It's like an MMO. You know, you set up these gambits that tells your characters what to do. It'll be like you'd be like, you have a parameter and then a modifier. So it's like, whenever health goes below 50%, do this. So it'd be like, health drops below 50%, cast Cure. And then you put like Ally, Any, and then Isuna. So anytime they get a status anomaly, you cast Isuna, and they'll automatically cast Isuna. So you can set up all these gambits to where you don't really have to even do anything. So you can technically say that the game is easy because you can set up these gambits like that. But you also have to consider that sometimes in battle you don't want them to do that because you want them to do something else. So then you have to turn the gambits off or rethink them or whatever. Excuse me. So I absolutely loved it. The game has tons of tons of replayability, which is solid for me. And the remaster supports 4K, so the game looks beautiful. Some of the Espers are fantastic. Some of them are enemies right out of Final Fantasy Tactics. The first boss you fight in Tactics is an Esper in this game. You know, it's great. The ultimate Esper is the ultimate Esper in Tactics. A lot of the weapons are pulled right out of Tactics, like Save the Queen, Excalibur. Well, that's really pulled from Final Fantasy IV, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it has a lot of the same spells, a lot of the same. Like, if you like Tactics, you're gonna love this game because it has a lot of the same references, and the writing was on point. Like, straight up was great. Hell, even in the Tactics remake that came out for PSP, and now it's for Android and all that, they have Balthier, which is one of the characters in this game. In it has a secret character. So it's really interesting. Like, Balthier is kind of like a Han Solo type guy. You know, he has like a animal companion. He's got like an airship. Very Star Wars-ish. He's got ulterior motives and all these things. So the story's good, has good closure. The battle system's solid. The graphics look great. So I've been playing it a lot, but I haven't like felt like, oh, I gotta play this like I did with 10. 10, it was grueling going through that game. I wanted to fucking drill a screw in my temple. But this game, I'm like, I would say like 60 or 70% through it, maybe ish. I'm almost max level, so I can blow through the whole game and then go through the end game stuff. But I am like hesitant because I don't want the game to be over, because once it's over, I'm done, and I'm like, oh, I gotta uninstall it now. But I think I'm going to get all the achievements in the game and all that stuff. So we have, so that's a wrap on Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age. Fantastic game, worth a buy. If you're gonna buy it, I would probably wait for a sale, just because they do sales constantly, like on PSN and stuff. So it's totally worth it. This game is not for Xbox, but it is for computer. But it's not on the Xbox One, but it is on the. So coming up here, we're at the 14th. So we have 6 days until God of War goes live. Now, on Friday at 12 o'clock, I'm going to be booting up God of War right away. I will have it. I will stream it. But I think I'm going to do the first stream without audio. I'm not going to talk during the first stream because I don't want to wake Marcy up. But the following streams, I will talk. I'll do a quick recap. This game is getting insanely positive reviews, so I think it's going to be a good time. It looks beautiful. It looks gorgeous. I would stream it in another room, but I want to be able to see it in 4K. So that's that on that. And thanks for listening, guys. If you don't want me to do any more reviews, I won't. It was just something I thought was fun to kind of talk about. I mean, this game is so good. It blows 7, 8, 9 out of the water. 9 is still good. 7's overrated and 8's complete garbage. I would not waste my fucking time loading that game up, let alone play it. It's fucking terrible. Makes no sense. Battle system's dumb. The magic system blows. The game is just god-awful. But that's all we got for Final Fantasy 12, and I'll see you guys on Friday for God of War. Alright, have a great night.